when I first looked at pictures of different parasites, I did feel pretty grossed out. But I actually now, when I look at it, I'm fascinated. I really am at the different shapes and sizes and functions and how they've survived so many years. I mean, they are true survivors. Some of these parasites date back to biblical times, like they found stool from Jerusalem, from tomb, like really old buildings, 2,500 years old, toilets, and they've actually looked at these old stool samples and found parasites that we have today. So that's really testing out the survival of the fittest kind of theory. And we want to survive along with them. In fact, we want to, strive, hopefully. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start the presentation. And if you have questions, feel free to jump in. Okay, I'm just going to let me know if you see my screen. It's taking a while. Okay, there you go. Do you see the slide?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to talk about what parasites are, how we get them, how we can be infected, and what are the symptoms and what are the solutions. So basically, when you talk about a relationship, we always hear about the word parasite, like it's somebody who just benefits from you, but then you never benefit from them kind of thing. They're like sucking out your energy. So in terms of an organism that lives in you, you're the host, you're feeding it, and you're depleting yourself and without even knowing. And basically the CDC, and I've put some links below, they've actually estimated 85% of North Americans having at least one type of parasite, 80% of people having some kind of parasitic infection, even if it's low-grade infections. So that's a lot in North America. And I find that there is this notion where we think that parasites only occur in tropical countries or when you travel to third world countries. But really, there's so many ways that we can get parasites in and on us. And so it's a good thing to kind of recognize the symptoms and know how to protect yourself from it. There's two types of parasites. So here, there's three different families. I'm going to start with this one here. It's called ectoparasites, and they're the ones that are on your skin. So think about lice, on your hair. So I'm not going to talk much about that. I'll focus more on these two kinds because these are the ones that are in us, in the blood, in our intestines, and it could travel into different parts of the body. So out of these two families, there's the protozoa, which are microscopic, so small ones that you can only see through the microscope, and they're usually one cell body, just very tiny. And then there's what they call the helminths, and these are the worms, like the pinworms, hookworms, tapeworms, and those are the ones you can visibly see. So in those two classes of family, the one that's so often heard of is called Giardia. This can be in contaminated water, it could be in food. If you have undercooked meats, and you could get these worms, so these are more visible. So the way they invade our body is through our mouth, or we could eat something that is undercooked or contaminated. They can get through our skin. So if you're wearing, like, let's say you're going barefoot and you're stepping on the soil that has eggs, like think about birds pooping on the ground and you're walking and you can get that on your skin. It can get through your feet that way. And even through lakes and ponds, if you're, swimming, you can get that on your skin. So there's different ways that you can get these parasites. And once they're in the blood, they can actually go to any organ. And so many people might think, oh, it's just contained in your digestive tract, but really it can travel anywhere. And so the sources are pretty much our environment. So like the soil, water, food, animal contact, human contact, if you're, intimate with someone who has a parasite, and then also air. So it's really learning how to coexist and thrive and balance yourself with different parasites. It's not really a matter of eradicating them because there's no such thing. They're everywhere. And so really it's just what is the effect on your body? How do you support your body to make sure that it's not overgrown, that it's not taking over? So I like this chart because it really demonstrates all the different places that parasites can live. Starting with the brain, I'm not sure if you've heard of people who have parasites in their brain. I'll tell you a little story later about how a Jewish community, they never eat pork and they got tapeworm from pork in their brain. I'll tell you how that happened. But yeah, it can go into the brain, and sometimes it will be dormant. So sometimes it can form a cyst. Sometimes they could just die there and they leave their, tissue, proteins, and then there could be inflammation, there could be seizures. You can get memory loss or dizziness or headaches. It could go into the eyes. You can get into the lymph node. I've heard of stories where people travel to India and they get it in their eyes, they get it through their nose. Lymph nodes can also become larger in different parts of the body, and that could be a sign that there's some kind of infection or parasite in that region. Also lungs. I mean, it's very common people come back from China and they like my relatives, they often come back with a chronic cough. And even if they take antibiotics, the cough doesn't go away. So they take these anti-parasitic herbs, and oftentimes that helps also with supplements to boost their immune system. Does somebody want to say something? I heard a noise.
It was my cat. I'm sorry.
He's protesting. I'm going to be talking about cats really soon. So yeah, liver. Okay, so this was really interesting to me because I know a client who has cancer in the bile duct. So the duct that leads from the liver to the gallbladder. And I thought, how peculiar, like, why would there be cancer in such a strange location in the bile duct? And I was reading up on parasites, and apparently there are some flukes. Flukes are flat parasites that can travel into the liver flukes, they can get into the gallbladder, and they cause damage in the tissue, and they also secrete toxins like ammonia. So the liver can then become enlarged, and that increases liver cancer, gallbladder cancer. If it gets into your bladder and you see like blood in the urine, if that can increase risk of cancer in the bladder. So I'm like, that makes sense. So parasites can increase cancer in certain areas of the body because it's toxic and it creates harm by some of them burrowing into the tissue of those organs. And that's how they hide. So they can hide in the tissue and your immune system can't find it, but it's on high alert. So you're really getting sort of a hyper immune response. So the liver and one area, the intestines for sure, that's the most popular, like commonly known area for parasites, but also muscles. And I don't know how many of you heard of people who have cysts in their muscles, like they maybe in their arm, but I have relatives who have these weird lumps in different parts of their body. And so apparently parasites, when they get into the muscle, they can form a cocoon to protect themselves. And that could become a protective thing that hardens and it could develop into cysts. So these are things that you can also eat from animals that have parasites. And that's kind of gross. Like if you think of, undercooked steak or sushi and things like that, where these cysts are hiding and you're eating that, and that could then, go into your digestive system, and then they can live and go through your intestines and into the blood. So yeah, definitely it can go into the muscles and go into your blood and the joints. So how many of you have heard of people who have arthritis and then connecting it to a parasite? Like that's very rare. I don't often hear people say, hey, this arthritis could be related to a parasite. But I've learned about that, and it's the Giardia, that the one that I said is very common. That can travel all out through the body, and it could cause inflammation in your joints. So if you do a parasite cleanse, that could very well destroy these parasites that are floating around in your joints. And so the last one would be the skin. Like I was saying earlier, it could go through your feet if you're going out in nature. So if you look at the one cell parasite that I was talking about, the microscopic one, I'll just focus on a couple of one because they're more popular, they're more common. So the Giardia, this one here, it's so cool, I find, because they have these two things that look like eyes, but they're not eyes. They're actually suction cups. And they suction to your intestinal wall. So they kind of stay pretty flat in that area. I just thought it was really interesting how it kind of reminded me of like, marine animals. You always have those bottom feeders, those that suction close to the aquarium, if you look. And it's similar to that nature where you have to find a way to displace them. And that's what those herbs do. Some of the herbs can, paralyze these creatures. They can expose these creatures to the immune system. And the other one I want to talk about is the Cryptosporidium. This one here, you see this little round ball? So that's what they call the cysts. So inside that ball are actual parasites or larvae, and they can float in the air. You can breathe them in. And then once it's in your lungs, then they actually break open, and then it can infest your lungs. So a lot of the symptoms are when you're taking in your digestive system, in contaminated water, for example, that would be diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and fever. But if it's in different parts of the organ, let's say in your lungs, your immune response would be to cough, right? To find a way to alert the body to expel it. And if it's on your skin, you would develop skin rashes. So they all have kind of different symptoms. This one here, it's called Toxoplasma gondii, and this is from cat poop, cat feces. Some of you might have heard people who are pregnant to get away from the litter box, to maybe move it to some other house for that period of time. And that's because of the parasites that come from the poop of the cat. And that could cause issues to the pregnant women and also to the baby. So basically, I've always wondered when I heard about that, well, if that's the case, what happens to regular people? So does that mean that we don't get the parasite? Because obviously it exists there, right? So then how do you do a cleanse when you have cats or dogs? So yeah, just going back to the story about the Jerusalem toilets that are 2,500 years old. So they've actually done a sample to look at what's in the poop, and they've noticed those same parasites, the ones with the suction cup. So it's actually been around for a very long time, and these are things that can actually cause joint pains, so arthritis, and that's kind of a connection there. And going back to the cat poop, basically, this is where the host is. This is where the cats usually are the host for these types of parasites, because they reproduce in the intestines of cats. But once they're out, then they can go into humans, and can go into rodents like mice, birds, and other animals. So these types of parasites can actually get into the brain, the muscles, and the eyes. So that's something to think about. And as you can see, this also has a cyst, like it's circular, and inside is the parasite. So basically, if you eat any undercooked meat that have these types of sacs or cysts in them, it's hard to see. I mean, you can't really see them with the naked eye. And so basically, if you are, somebody who has a cat, just make sure you wash your hands after you deal with the litter box. Make sure you wash countertops and your fruits and vegetables for sure, just in case there's contact, but even contact with contaminated soil. And the other group, which is the tapeworm and the ones that you can visibly see. So those ones, there's so many different types. They can live in the body for a very long time without being seen, or, just because they attach to the intestinal wall. And they can also be transferred into soil, into the earth, where animals can eat that and ingest that into the body. These things called flukes, like here, this is a flat one. This is the kind that can go into your bile duct, to your liver, and they can be found in lakes and ponds and rivers. They can travel up even through the penis. Like I've seen videos where they actually went into this pond and it goes up through that opening. And then there's also this syndrome called swimmer's itch, which is basically a person who goes into like contaminated water and they come out with a rash. So that's the parasite that gets into the skin. And so things like that, like if you get into your intestine, you'll get abdominal pain and diarrhea, sometimes blood in the stool, and then sometimes your liver can get inflamed because of the toxins. And then if it's in your bladder, then you can get blood in the urine, frequent urination, and then even increased risk of bladder cancer. So let me know if you have any questions. I wanted to just talk about tapeworms just very quickly, because I never really think about that when I'm having steak, when you're getting a, medium well or medium rare. But if that cattle has contamination in the muscle, so now you know it goes into the muscle too, then you can eat that if it's undercooked. So once you ingest that, once it's in you, then the worm attaches to the intestinal wall. It sucks nutrients from your body and it can self-fertilize. So it actually creates eggs on its own. It doesn't even need a mate. And then from there, the way nature is pretty funny. Basically, the idea is that you would poop it out. And if you were a cow, you would poop it out into the grass and then another cow would eat it. And then they would get those worms. So it's the way the parasite grows and spreads, for different cows. I find that to be kind of fascinating how it just, has a way of, propagating itself. Now pigs, they also have a similar type of tapeworm, but these ones can actually travel to the brain. The ones from cows do not travel to the brain. They tend to stay in the intestinal tract. But the ones from pigs can go up to the brain. And that's why it's really important to cook pork super well. And if you're managing or touching raw pork, make sure you wash your hands and countertops, disinfect. And here's a story. I put the links down below for the article if you want to read it. But basically, there was a Jewish community, Orthodox Jewish, three practitioners of this faith that never ate pork. And basically, they went into the hospital 3 separate occasions. They had recurrent seizures. So they did an exam, a scan, and they found larval form of the pig tapeworm. So they found this in their brain. And they thought it was really strange because they never ate any pork. They haven't been to traveling to foreign countries with like breakouts for that, outbreaks. So they weren't sure what happened. So they investigated in the family members. They went to 7 people, several different families. Eventually, they found a 4th person that also had seizures. And then they looked at one thing that they had in common was that they had cleaning ladies, housemaids, they call them, and they were from Latin and Central America. And it was them that were infected with the adult tapeworm. They had done a stool sample and they found that they were infected and somehow they transmitted the eggs to these people that they worked with. So, like if they didn't, let's say they didn't wash their hands properly after a bowel movement, they could easily, touch the doorknob or handle food. So that is one way that people can get it, even if they're not consuming meat or pork. Are you guys okay? All right. So yeah, I wanted to touch on fish because, people eat sushi, they have raw oyster, snails, ceviche. Personally, I don't miss it. Like I haven't had raw meat in a while and I don't crave it. But I know a lot of people who do. They have poke bowls and they really love the raw salmon. But it's just very important that we make sure that it's sushi grade. And what that also means is that they have kept the fish frozen in minus 20 Celsius for at least 7 days or minus 35 for at least 15 hours to kill the larvae. And I've seen videos from Costco where they show the salmon there and they actually show like a worm that's alive. So it's not something that's uncommon, but just, why risk it? Like for me, I just rather not risk it because you just don't know how the restaurant has managed the meat. And if you do get these types of worms, well, it could cause a lot of abdominal pain and nausea and inflammation. Sometimes you can get allergic reactions like hives. Those hives can be due to the parasite proteins in your body. So your immune response with like hives and breakouts. And also you could have a bile duct obstruction. So that could be very dangerous too. So guess how many ways you can get parasites? It seems like you can get them in many natural ways, like just stepping out barefoot in nature, going into a lake. So I just find that because there's so many ways that this can happen, that it's important to know that there's ways to also do a cleanse if you notice something off, with your body. So for example, if you traveled, you could get some sort of parasite through the air and just in general from the drinking water. If you have a weak immune system or low stomach acid, so that's a big one because stomach acid could kill parasites. They could even dissolve razor blades. But unfortunately, a lot of people have weaker stomach acids now due to stress, medication, processed foods. So you may not be able to kill off some of the parasites that, you're eating from fruits and vegetables. Even though you're thinking you're eating really healthy, if they haven't been washed well, you can have little eggs on the surface of those fruits. So yeah, get a scrub. It would be good to like scrub your fruits, apples, like the peels, if you're going to eat that. And even swimming in a pool, I had to add this in because I remember I had gone to parties where people would let their dogs swim in the pool. And then I'd see like children just jumping in. And I remember thinking like, no, I don't want to go in that pool. Like I just don't want to be with that dog, running around there and jumping back in. I just didn't feel like, even if it was chlorinated, I just didn't feel like it would be that clean. And I remember kids that were coming back out of the pool will have like a dog smell. My kids as well, like on their hair. I just smelt it all over them. And anyway, I'm just saying that is a possibility where a child would jump in the pool with a pet and swallow the water. They can get that into their body. Also, if you're sleeping with your pets, if you let them lick your face, lick your food, I mean, that can transfer parasites. Walking barefoot in contaminated soil, like I said earlier, but even having sex with somebody that has parasites, you can get that. So when you do a parasite cleanse, I would recommend doing it with your partner because at least you're both cleansing. And also for motivational purposes, you won't be tempting one another to eat certain foods that, will not support your cleanse. But I did mine separate from my husband. He did his after I did mine because he saw the results and he did that. I mean, that's not a problem either, but it's just, if you're gonna try it, maybe it would be a good idea to do it with your partner. Also, you can get it through blood, like blood transfusions. You can get it from children. Children daycares, a lot of times changing diapers, they could get on their hands. They can get it in different places like sandboxes or playing in the soil. And then also from insects like fleas and mites and things like that. So now that you know how you can possibly get parasites, I'm going to talk about the symptoms. And so there's so many different symptoms because there's hundreds of different types of parasites. So, and they can be anywhere in the body. So, but I'm just going to talk about the common ones. And I'm going to talk about the strange ones because there's the strange symptoms that are very connected to specific parasites. So one of the symptoms is if you can't sleep well at night, like if you're finding you're anxious, tossing and turning, you're having maybe bad dreams, night sweats. So that was a spelling error, night sweats. If you have a lot of fatigue, that could also be because of parasites. I mean, it could be any other reason. Maybe you were stressed or you didn't eat properly. I mean, there's many reasons, but if you have, let's say 5 of these, then you can kind of correlate and say maybe it would benefit to do a cleanse. So fatigue is because the parasites literally suck nutrients from your intestine. So like people with low iron, low red blood count, they could have parasites. If you have some new allergies that are starting, that, are strange, that could, sinus issues, skin problems, and then of course the digestive issues that's correlated, like nausea, and not just any nausea, but random nausea. So let's say it's just out of the blue, you feel nauseous. That could be strange. That could be because of a parasite. Itching is the classic one. Itching in your bum, itching in the nasal area. That could be parasites, worms, eggs coming through. And then for children, they often, they'll scratch and then they'll put their hands in their mouth and then it just keep propagating. Also brain fog, like dizziness or headaches. And I've heard people talk about vibration in the head, like vibration in the body. That's bizarre, like a buzz. That could be a sign of a parasite. Irritability, also extreme food cravings. Like if you're just ravenously hungry. Let's say you already finished a meal and you should be full, but you're still hungry. You're like, this is bizarre. That could be a sign of a parasite. Extreme cravings for sugar. Joint pain. Of course, I'm not saying that that's the only reason of it, but it's just like some of the common symptoms. Vision problems, like somebody who's suddenly very sensitive to light, or their eyes are a bit sore, they're feeling some movement inside, not just floaters, but different types of things that they're starting to see or feel. And then period cramps and heavy periods, it could also be due to the inflammation from the parasites. Parasites can also influence hormones because, you know, your gut microbiome also has a regulation for hormones. And also if your adrenals are fatigued because of the extra stress of the parasites, then that could also affect your hormones. I like to think of it like, let's say you know there's somebody in your home, but you just don't know where they are, or you just hear noises sometimes at night, or let's say you think that there's a mice in the house, you just don't know where, somewhere in the walls, you just can't seem to know where it is, so you don't quite feel safe, so you're always kind of on edge. That's how it is with parasites and the immune system, and that's why there could be fatigue, adrenal fatigue, sleep disturbances. So the strange things about parasites is that they tend to be more active during a full moon. And sometimes people would prefer to start a cleanse on the full moon. I don't think it's necessary because usually a parasite cleanse is about 30 to 40 days anyways. So you're going to cover the full moon during that period. So why is it that they're more active? It's because during the full moon, your serotonin levels starts to go up a little bit, your feel-good hormone, and they like that. I mean, the parasites are attracted to serotonin. And at the same time, your melatonin decreases during a full moon. And melatonin is really good for your immune system and helps you sleep. And so if your melatonin is lower, then your immune system is a little bit lower too. So these parasites can come out, basically. They're more active because they know your immune response is a bit slower. So some of the strange things that happen, other than the full moon and the new moon, is that people could start to grind their teeth more, drool in their sleep. That's one very important one, where they're drooling more, or they're just finding like tightness around their jaw. That's just the anxiety that's created around your sleep when you have parasites. And nightmares or clenching, teeth clenching, dark circles under the eye, swelling around the eye. Those are very peculiar symptoms that you might find abnormal. Seizures, of course, these are abnormal. Unintended weight loss suddenly, that's also abnormal. Enlarged lymph nodes. And dental flare-ups, dental issues could also have a parasitic effect. Sometimes parasites can live in the jaw and in the gum area. And so they can cause infections there. And then, of course, like, you know, fever and chills and things like that could also be very strange. Suddenly it happens. That could be due to parasites. Does anybody have questions here? Okay. I wanted to just share a story of somebody who had some dental work done, and they found like an abscess in the gums, like an area where there was like liquid and bacteria, and they were able to extract that, and they were able to find parasites in it. And that parasite was related to cats. And that person also has a cat. And so it is possible that parasites can enter this way. You know, you're just, you know, touching, putting your hand in the mouth, breathing. So I think parasite cleanse would really be beneficial for any cat or dog owner. And why is it that it's a bit of a blind spot in conventional medicine? Why is it that doctors think 10% of people have parasites, but the CDC says more like 80 or 90? Actually, Dr. Oz, he was criticized for him saying that it's more like 95. And, you know, it was a bit of controversial, but the reason is because there's a couple of different tests normally that test for parasites, the blood test, stool tests. But the thing is, in the stool, you're going to get what you poop that day, and it might not be that parasites come out. You know, like you maybe the eggs are lodged into the biofilm near the intestines. Maybe that tapeworm is, you know, attached to your intestine, is not going to come out. So it's really hard to say. If you see the stool tests and there's no parasites, then it doesn't mean that you don't have it. Same thing with blood tests. It's testing the blood, but if the parasite's in your organs, it's not going to show up in the blood either. So it's hard to say, that's why a lot of doctors wouldn't think it's a priority to check for parasites unless it's obvious. So unless you really have those symptoms, like, you see itchy bum happening, the person has worms in the stool, like those are obvious, visible things. But there are some that really are not that obvious. So how do you minimize your risk? Number one, wash your produce. I remember someone telling me, if it's organic, you don't have to wash it because there's a lot of good bacteria on it. But I don't think that that I would continue doing that because there's also a chance of parasites and eggs on that as well. So I'd rather get the good bacteria in other ways, like probiotics and fermented foods. Also how it was handled, right? Like the fruits and vegetables, if it was delivered with service workers that were not that clean, again, they can contaminate the fruits and vegetables. Sprouts also contain bacteria and parasites, so make sure you clean sprouts really well. And consider getting a vegetable scrub, wash your hands. And of course, with meat, make sure it's well cooked, because I know, like if you look at this thermometer, they have temperature for rare beef, medium, and well done. So you're taking a chance if you're doing it rare or medium. And I'm not saying to not ever have medium cooked beef, but if you are, just pay attention to the symptoms, pay attention to different signs in your body, and maybe you can just do a parasite cleanse every year or every 6 months if you feel like you're getting those symptoms that we talked about. Maybe avoid sleeping with your pets. And if you do, do a parasite cleanse, pets get dewormed as well. There's things like diatomaceous earth that you can add to the food, and that could help kill off some of the worms. It's just something to consider. Wash your hands after handling the litter box. Doing a couples cleanse might be good, just so that you and your partner are both actively cleansing. So you're going to eat the same kind of food. And I'll talk about what to eat while you're doing a parasite cleanse so that you're not feeding the parasites that you're trying to kill. One thing to note is not to do it if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, because when parasites die, there could be a heavier amount of toxins that go through your body, more demand on the liver, and that can affect your health. So you should do it in a way that's more gentle in general. And one thing to focus on is developing a good digestive system, strong stomach acid, so that the parasites don't live. Even if you do eat some raw meat, like you're able to protect yourself with strong stomach acid. If you think that your stomach acid is low, you can always supplement with betaine HCl. It's a supplement. You can take it with your food, or add some apple cider vinegar to increase your stomach acid while you're eating. I just thought this was an interesting little fun fact that when your stomach acid is strong at a pH of 2 to 3, then it could even dissolve a razor blade. So I thought that was very interesting. So before you do a parasite cleanse, let's say you're really in robust shape, you're in the best shape, you can just jump in, you can take those herbs every day, it's not a problem. But in general, I think that you also need to make sure that you're not constipated, that you have regular bowel movements, because you're going to want to poop that out. Also, your liver isn't already burdened, like if you're on medication, for example, maybe talk to your doctor. If you've always been very dehydrated, make sure you're drinking lots and lots of water. So do a little bit of preparation. Sometimes the week before a parasite cleanse, some people would stop eating meat. They'll do some more juicing, more hydration, they'll rest more, because the negative effect is that you might get some histamine flare-up, so like an allergic reaction to the dead parasite protein, the extra toxic load. So that reaction is called Herxheimer reaction, and people can get it. If they have a lot of, parasites that die off, they can get headaches and chills and fatigue. So you want to do it in a way where you're just having minimal side effects. Parasites, when they're alive, they have a byproduct called ammonia, And ammonia has to be converted to urea from the liver and then excreted through your kidneys. So that's why there's an extra burden on your liver and kidneys. So when parasites are alive, but then when they die off, they also have proteins, endotoxins. So this is why it's good to make sure you're drinking a lot, getting lots of sleep, that you're consuming antioxidants, green drinks, and to have minimal side effects, you want to nourish while you're cleansing. So you want to be like strengthening your body, but not strengthening the parasites. And how do you do that? So first, hydration, flushing out toxins, supporting your immune system, and having probiotic foods that are good for the healthy bacteria. Because when we're taking antiparasitic herbs, it could still kill off some of the healthy bacteria too, because you're just kind of overloading it with these herbs. So it's good to have probiotics, during the day. And eating antioxidant foods like berries. There's this one that I really like, the apothecary. It helps with sleep, so it helps you kind of rebuild overnight. And you need that in order to heal, like the intestinal wall. And so it has really high antioxidants. All of these as well, berries, and the benefits. I'm not sure if you've all known about antioxidants, but basically it's anti-aging. Anti-aging because it helps with oxidative stress, with free radicals, and it could even protect from heart disease, from inflammation. And Alexandra says, can someone have parasites from a long time ago? Would you recommend coffee enemas while doing a parasite cleanse? Yeah, so parasites can live for a very long time. And if they're self-fertilizing, then it just propagates. So you can have it from a very, very long time ago and not know it. And there are people that do colonics while they're doing a parasite cleanse. So yes, enemas, they can do go and get some hydrotherapy to flush it out. That can be beneficial too. So yeah, so what do parasites like? What do they not like? So parasites, they like sugar, they like processed foods, trans fats, all of these kind of processed meats, meat products in general, especially undercooked. So we're trying to try to avoid that before doing a parasite cleanse, and during the parasite cleanse, just try to avoid alcohol as well. And what is it that they don't like? Well, they don't like certain foods that contain antiparasitic properties like garlic and ginger, papaya seeds. They can kill off intestinal worms. They're very, very bitter, papaya seeds. Pineapple has bromelain, and it's an enzyme that can break down the biofilms. So for those who don't know, a biofilm is sort of like a slime that they hide in, and it could be on top of your intestinal wall. It could exist in different parts of the body too. It's just a film where it's hard to get to because they're hiding in that film. So there's enzymes like serrapeptase is another one that can break down biofilm. Pumpkin seeds are also good for tapeworms, but I mean, how much can you eat, right? Like you're just munching on pumpkin seeds. And that's why I think taking those herbs in a capsule, in water, like a tea, that could make it more concentrated. Cloves also is good antimicrobial, antiparasite. Cloves can kill eggs and larvae, like the tiny parasites. Also, you want to make it inhospitable for parasites. You want to make your body in a way where they don't want to stay in. So high alkalinity in the intestines, greens, bitters, low sugar. And then you also want to boost your immune health with vitamin C, antioxidants. And so this is where a lot of times when you see anti-parasite herbs, you're going to see this, mostly the ones that I highlighted. Wormwood comes first, oftentimes with different anti-parasite cleanses. Black walnut hull and cloves. Those are pretty much the three that you'll see really often, that blend. And it's because they disrupt the entire life cycle of the parasite. So cloves can attack the eggs, black walnut hull and wormwood can attack the roundworms, the tapeworms, and all the microscopic parasites. And The good thing is, when you do that, you can also have some sort of a laxative. And you should look for a blend that has a little bit of maybe senna or something that could help you poop so that you're not constipated. And if it doesn't, then make sure you're consuming some fiber so you're at least having 1 or 2 bowel movements a day when you're doing a parasite cleanse. Some of the blends have garlic and oregano. Some have grapefruit seed extract. Black seed oil is another one. I actually take black seed oil on its own. If I feel like I'm a bit bloated, let's say clove, black seed oil, those really work well. And I put ivermectin there because those are more pharmaceutical. These are names of pharmaceutical drugs that are targeted for parasites. But I've often heard from doctors say that even if they do a medicated parasite cleanse, it's usually a few days. And then it doesn't catch the eggs. Let's say, they're hidden. So you might concentrate it for a few days, but then it's better to then follow up with the herbs. So because the herbs are less harsh and you could do it for a longer period of time. And that will eventually get rid of, the whole life cycle. So I actually have used this product. It's Super Cleanse R. It has the black walnut hull. It has clove and wormwood. And I've tried other products that have different dosages. I find this is good because it has a higher dosage, so it's more effective. And you do it for 10 days. You basically take 2 capsules in the morning, 2 capsules at night, and then you take a probiotic during the day. You can take some more fiber, make sure you're hydrated, make sure you don't eat like processed foods during that time. And it has things like marshmallow root to help with inflammation, to soothe the gut lining. It has a Cascara sagrada bark that really helps with constipation. Senna leaf is the same thing, so that it increases your peristaltic movement, basically your bowel movement. So it kind of triggers you to go to the bathroom and to release the toxins. So there's a link here. I could send it to you after. And I do have a code where you can use for a discounted rate. And when I did it, I actually did it the full 30-day cleanse, which has the Parasite, the Super Cleanse R. But remember how I was saying that it's good to prepare your body and nourish it while you're cleansing? Because when you're doing that, you might have an extra load on your liver. You might have the reaction, like the flu-like symptoms, and you don't want to have that. So if you want it to be, well guided, then I find this is a nice package because it has the greens, it has the antioxidants, it has the probiotic, and it has some protein that you can take to heal the gut lining without sugar. So it's not like a protein powder that has any kind of sugar in it. It's just pure aminos, so that it's clean for your kidneys as well. Because if you're eating a lot of meat or protein powders, that could be taxing for the kidneys. So it's just a nice package that I find addresses all these needs when you're doing a parasite cleanse. And it comes with a little cheat sheet or a little tracker sheet. So from days 1 to 30, you just mark down vertically all the things that you're doing. And the first 10 days, you actually don't do the parasite kill shot, like the herbal stuff for the parasites. The first 10 days, you're just preparing your body. And then you do the parasite cleanse, and then you take another break for 20 days, and then you do it again. So the whole moon cycle is caught during that time. And you can also provide feedback on the sheet, and there's a lot of support with this company. But again, if you want to look at herbs, the herbs that I listed out, like the clove and the black walnut and the wormwood, those are the key ingredients. But just make sure you do it for a period of time that catches the full moon and the new moon cycle. After the cleanse, people have reported less bloating, clearer skin, more mental clarity, which was for me. I felt like I had better memory. I felt sharper, more energy, less bloated. I didn't measure my iron levels, but I just felt more energized. And so, yeah, that's what I just wanted to cover. And just one little thing I wanted to mention is if you need help with gut support, I do have a program. It's a 6-week program, and we're going to do a promo for 30% off. If you're interested for the holidays, let me know. It's all online. This is separate from the parasite cleanse. It's just, pelvic floor and gut health. But I just want to say I am planning on a parasite cleanse in January. So if you're part of the Facebook group, you'll see me showing how to do it there. If you're not, you can go on Facebook and just join Health and Wellness for Women. And I'll share some more information there, like day by day, what I'll be eating. But the company that I had mentioned, they do provide a list of foods for you to eat, and things that, you should avoid. So I think that's it for now. Yeah, there are other things that I could mention, like biofilm busters. You'll hear of that if you're interested. These are just things like black seed oil, because some people, they could do a 30-day cleanse, and because it's so gentle, not this one, but the other one from Real Raw Foods, I had done one and I didn't really feel like there was a huge impact. And it does say that if that's the case, then you should use some biofilm busters because they're kind of still in the biofilm. So you can add it, you can add some laxatives, and there's also such a thing called binders. Binders are things like chlorella or zeolite or clay, like they have bentonite clay. So they actually bind the bulk of the dead parasite to help you eliminate. Like they kind of trap them and they help you eliminate. So in that package that I mentioned earlier, there is a binding agent here, and it's part of the probiotic. It's basically called Biomedic. This one right here, this is a probiotic. It also has prebiotics, but it has humic acid, which is a binding factor so that your poop is full. Like it's not going to be thin poop when you're doing a parasite cleanse. You want it to be coming out thoroughly. Like you want to feel like you've actually emptied your bowels and you feel lighter. So that's the effect of a binder. So that's the end of my webinar. Does anybody have questions? Fondi, great. I order from them and they use FedEx or UPS. Yeah, they are, so that you're not affected with the mail strike.
I have a question, Cindy.
Yes.
As you have a cat, as you heard him already, you mentioned about a parasite with cat. Would you get parasite if you just petting them? Like he always jump into my bed first in the morning and I just pet him. Is this something I have to be more conscious about? I avoid for him. I don't let him to lick my hands or anything, but just petting him. You think that you can get parasite with that? But I always wash my hand. I'm very fussy, even it's my own cat. I didn't even touch my hair when I touch him. I just want to wash my hand right away. But being in my bed, he jump in. I'm always concerned about it. So what would you say about that?
So, I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't know, 100%. But in general, if you do have a cat and you want to maybe see if there's a benefit, if you have any of the symptoms that I said earlier, you could just try doing a parasite cleanse. I mean, I know Alexandra, you have a cat also. I don't know if you want to speak to that. Because a lot of the symptoms, like I said, is, it varies and it's not guaranteed that you would get, but it seems like from what I've heard, there's a high chance because it can go through your skin, it can go through the air, it can be.
Okay.
So yes, Alexandra?
I think it depends also if you have an indoor cat or cats that go outside.
Sorry, can you speak a little louder?
Yeah,
You said something like it depends if the cat goes outside.
right. So the chances are less if it's an indoor cat.
Okay.
But recently I found out that my cat has roundworm and she's an indoor cat.
Oh,
And she could have gotten it from the sitter because we have a sitter who sits other animals. So she could have had it in her nails or something. Even though they're told to wash their hands. So it depends on who handles your cats. And also, they could eat an insect in the house that's infected.
wow.
Yeah, insects can carry parasites too. So, because I'm in the tropics now, the subtropics, sometimes there's things that crawl, can't really get away from it. and she might chase it at night and eat it, consume it, and get parasites. So even though she is on a flea and deworming treatment now, you need to wash your hands. I wear a mask when I clean the litter,
Mm.
and
Okay.
when I change the litter, and sometimes when I groom her, I wear gloves.
Alexandra, how did you find out that your cat had a worm? You went to the vet or?
She had her annual exam at the veterinarian in September, and I usually bring a stool sample.
Okay.
It was in a stool sample.
Do they always do that? Is it like a regular thing that they would check the stool, or did you ask for that?
Annually, they recommend it. Here they do anyway. But I think it was the same at the vet in Kirkland when we were in Montreal. It was once a year I would bring a stool sample. Yeah.
Okay.
And they do
Interesting.
urine as well. They test the urine.
They test the urine?
I don't know how they do it. They take them in the back and somehow squeeze it
Oh,
out,
I
or
see.
they take a needle and pull it out. I've never seen it. So, yeah, urine and feces.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. That was interesting.
Does that help?
Yes, it did actually.
I'm a bit not paranoid, but I'm very cautious
Yeah.
with the cat now. Yeah.
So I have heard about Parasite Cleanse for a very long time. Like maybe for over 10 years, I've heard of people talking about it and always was sort of a mystery because I guess I was afraid, you've never done it. You just feel like, okay, what if I see something come out of the, the toilet, or what if I get really sick? So that's why when I saw this Purium, the one with the whole package, and it was because of this lady that I follow, and she was on Facebook and she was posting, and she had stage 3 breast cancer, and she had a lump under her right arm, and she started taking this, and she was feeling much better, and I could see her transformation. Like she would post about it. So I reached out and I asked her, "What are you doing?" And she told me about it. And I said, "You know what? That's so smart because it tells you what to eat. You're not starving. You know exactly what you need to do, and it's gentle." And she told me she didn't feel nauseous. She didn't have diarrhea. Well, she had a little bit of loose stools, but it wasn't like she had to be near the bathroom. She was still very functional. And what was interesting to me is that there was a lot more talk about parasites linking to cancer. And when I was reading up on it, and it mentioned, the liver cancer and bladder cancer, it just made me realize that it's just another vector. It's another, we're always trying to find ways to support our health. And it's just one way that kind of is a blind spot. We don't really think about it, but it's kind of common. And it's a lot more common than we think. So I just think it's important to at least try it once to see how it feels. And with a proven method, it's gentle. You won't really get sick from it. And if you have questions, let me know. And it's good if you're feeling nourished while you're doing it. That's the biggest difference because your body's supported. Well, thanks everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time for this. And again, I'm here if you need anything. My consultation, I'm planning to close it from December 20th to January 13th. So I guess if I don't see you guys, have a wonderful holiday season. I can't believe we're like less than 2 weeks to Christmas. It's crazy. But enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of the year.
Thank you. Happy holidays, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Happy holiday.
Thank you.
Bye,
All the best to
everybody. Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you so much, Cindy. This was really, really interesting.
Thanks, Chrisia.
You kind of crushed my dreams for sushi now.
Hey, you know what? If you take it, at least you know there's a parasite cleanse you can do after.
I actually did get the first subscription, so I did get the Parasite cleanse.
Okay, great.
I just got it this week, but obviously Christmas is literally in a week and a half, so I'm not gonna start it now. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Me
So
too. Me too. I'm gonna wait till the new year.
yeah.
Enjoy.
Thank you so much. You
Yeah.
too.
Because that was amazing information you just provided. A lot of people, I'm sure they will love to hear that.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I learned a lot of things. Thank you so much. Very useful and complete information. And looking forward to connecting to you in the next few days.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night.
you and take care.
You too, Panta. Take care.